the long sprawling headlines. Huffington Post, I know, like slightly longer ones depending on what the story is. But yeah, if you look at, as Steve said, if you look at the British media, most of it is, gotcha, or, you're in, or whatever it is, we're out, that kind of thing. So, but when you're doing your title, top line, trailer, and talent, Steve also said, do keep in mind this theme hook story. So theme, what does it answer? What's that big question? Your hook, the grabbing of the attention, what's going to grab the attention, and the story, what's connecting with other people, and what the audience feels is really important. And he said, do keep in mind about that dual screening, when they're watching X Factor and talking to their mates at the same time. So breaking down then the theme, hook, and story, Steve said that in the theme there's three things. What's the big question? Why now? What's in it for the audience? And apparently there is something that Radio 1 say, it's better never than late. And I love that. I think that's it's a great saying. I think I like it because I come from a world where, there's no point being late. Just don't bother. And BuzzSumo, so that's one that you should maybe take down. BuzzSumo is a great website. And they claim that apparently you've got 2 seconds to grab someone's attention on a mobile feed, and maybe sometimes a bit less. So that goodness me, 2 seconds. And then someone else later on, might have been Natalie Hancock, said you've got from the minute their finger goes from the bottom of the screen to the top. So then moving on to the hook, Steve said that you were wanting to look at irony, conflict, and secrets. Those were the three things that kind of make for a really good hook. When it comes to irony, he defined that as a state of affairs that seems deliberately contrary to what you expect. And the example he used was the founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a man she met on Match.com. And I love the fact that, it's obvious, where that sentence is going to go, and that's what Steve sort of displayed to us. And he said that, keep an eye on that gap between what is and what ought to be, because that's where comedy lies. I'd never heard that before. Now, I've never worked in comedy. I've never really looked at trying to do comedy. I don't think it's a talent or a skill I have. But I love that. It's something that I never really thought about, and really, really interesting. And then, of course, he talked about the fact that one of the functions of storytelling was to allow people to work in groups. Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, secrets are incredibly powerful when it comes to TV, and to anything, I suppose, any kind of content. And then he pointed out a few different TV programs, like The Secret Millionaire, for example, like the one where the guy gets the bride, her wedding, all that kind of thing. So there's always this secret that's revealed, the what happens next. And then he went on to talk about the story. He says, make it meaningful, have a defining moment, and make sure it connects with people. Things like boy meets girl, fundamental story that keeps coming back. Steve used a great example involving the Titanic. Many, many years ago, there was a Titanic movie made, and pretty much nothing happened with it. Didn't do very well. And then what happened was they came along, they injected a boy meets girl story, and suddenly it's the biggest, most annoying movie in history in my mind. So it's about those fundamental life stories, and those stories that show us what it means to grow up, to love, to live together. And then he said, there's also this element of, what happens when someone breaks the rules. Who do you trust? All of that kind of thing. And so he says, when you're pitching, just ask yourself, how else can people feel connected? So it's really, thought that was really, really interesting talk with Steve. Definitely, if he's on the lineup next year, I would get on to one of his sessions. So next up, I went to the Big Impact on Big Platforms by Rowan Robertson. She's former head of media for BBC TV, and of course, I didn't take a note of what her actual company name was, but if you give me 1 second, I'll find her on. So she's on twitter.com/row, ROW. Her company is called taylorkerrick.co.uk. So it's Rowan Kerrick Robertson. That's Rowan Kerrick, Kerek, Robertson. And her company is taylorkerrick.co.uk. So she does social media, comms, and she's very, very good at what she does. And Rowan talked about digital tropes. And I suppose for some people, it's probably a good idea to just define what a trope is. So when you go onto Google, because Google's got the answer for everything, a trope is described as a figurative or metaphorical use of a word or expression, or a significant or recurrent theme. And I really love these. Rowan identified some really cool digital tropes, which I feel that I'm going to probably use in my work, and I'll probably use all of them. And I really loved them. Yeah, it was really good. Sorry, I'm thinking as I'm talking at the same time. So what are those digital tropes? So number 1 was cute, and number 2 was LOL, laugh out loud. So what she's saying is, there's nearly always a dog story on the BBC homepage. I wonder why. Everyone loves cute dogs. And then, you don't have to explain, lol, everybody laughs. The next 3 were feel, #FTW, which is for the win, and OMG, oh my god. And the feel one, I mean, how many times have you watched one of those, viral videos where someone falls off something or does something silly or whatever? And for the win is, it's just, it can be used for so many things. And then the OMG needs no exclamation or explanation. You know what I loved? I loved this one. She called one the water cooler. Now, I had never heard of this before. And this is more of a discussion piece. It's content that might be a bit more trivial, like the royal wedding or X Factor, for example, but it's something that you would traditionally have found people chatting around the water cooler on, and I really liked that. Then there was life hacks, so the how to this and how to beat that and all of that, and then the moving stuff, stuff that really sort of gets to your core. Celebrities as peers, David Beckham does something wonderful, everybody gasps and all, that kind of thing. And nostalgia is a massive one. But one of the things that maybe separately, just sort of sidetracking with nostalgia, is I think that we need to be looking at, it's not just nostalgia for the 70s or the 80s, the 90s are now nostalgia. The early 2000s are now nostalgia. So think about your nostalgia audience. That nostalgia audience could be an audience that did something 10 years ago. It's still a bit of nostalgia. It's looking back. It's, fond memories and all of that. Rowan then went on to talk about YouTube and how 50% of YouTube content is watched on a mobile phone. And you've got 5 to 6 seconds to make an impact with that. And when it comes to YouTube, there are 5 billion daily video views, and YouTube is the second biggest search engine on the internet, next to Google, of course. So definitely YouTube is a massive opportunity. It is a crowded, noisy space, though, and it's important to get it right. Some of Rowan's top tips is number 1, collaboration, work with other people. I cannot beat that drum enough. Be discoverable, she says, and things like using trending topics, using evergreen content, and making sure that you've got all your metadata and stuff. Be sustainable. Be consistent, accessible, be human. So she's saying putting the social into social media. She says know your audience well, be authentic, and think about first-time viewers. So those are all really good things to keep in mind. And one of the things that another tip that I didn't know, but I don't upload an awful lot to YouTube, was that the titles, when it comes to your metadata and your search engine optimization type stuff, again, not stuff I'm an expert in, Rowan says that the YouTube titles are front loaded. So if you have, something about Belfast and it's about a celebrity, you're wanting to front load the information, rather than have it Belfast City Council welcomes megastar Justin Bieber. You're going to want to have Justin Bieber visits Belfast or something like that, so that the content that you want searched is at the very beginning. So then she moved on to Facebook, and wow, what a stat. So apparently on it, so if we think that YouTube has 5 billion daily video views, when it comes to Facebook, no one in the audience actually realised that it was more. So it's 8 billion video views on Facebook per day. However, there is a bit of a disclaimer with that. Rowan believes that how Facebook measure video views and how YouTube measure video views is very different, and that YouTube wait for you to watch it much longer before it counts it as a view, whereas Facebook it's possibly like 3 seconds or something. But her tips for Facebook video were to tailor your story to your audience, make them think we're in this together. Poor quality can actually create authenticity. So it's not about getting high level production values. And she showed a really good example of the guy from Poldark, the one everyone fancies, whose name I can't remember. And they had shot a professional video with him, but the sound had collapsed or something. It just wasn't right. So what they did is they reduced the quality of the film in order to match the audio, and it worked perfectly on social. She said you need to invest in your idea, use your first few seconds wisely. So you have from the time, so it was Rowan, I said that it was Nicola earlier, it was Rowan who says that you have from the time your finger scrolls from the top to the bottom, and then, which is about 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. So yeah, she used an example, the hashtag I never knew. I thought that was really interesting. You should look it up. It's some really good content. And again, Rowan really talked about storytelling and the importance of it. She also talked about adding stills and video to separate audio content, which is called visualizing audio. So that was something I didn't really know very much about, didn't have a name for it in my head. And then she says you've got to make it work without sound if you're going to be using it on social, because you're pushing into their personal space. In comparison to YouTube, people sort of deliberately go to YouTube to watch something, whereas in Facebook you're in the personal space. There was some discussion about square and portrait video format, the fact that you get more real estate on the screen. And then she said that you could make 2 versions of your videos, a short form for Twitter and Facebook and a long form for YouTube. So that was really interesting, some really good tips there. Really liked those. There was a session that I missed that Christine Watson went to, and maybe I could convince Christine to do a takeaways blog with me, or podcast. What do you call a podcast blog? Is there a pog? Anyway, so I might try and see if I can convince Christine to do that with me. So there was 3 apps for content creation that were talked about in her session, and one of them was Pictofile. So it's Pictophile, Legend, which I've already used and it is fabulous, and Gravy, Gravie. Legend is one where you get moving words on a screen, turns it into a wee mini video. Gravy allows you to put your logo on top of some video, and I can't remember what Pictofile is, but it is worth downloading all of these. I will have a blog post up on the Content Club over the next few days. It may already be there by the time this goes